And if you're going from Montrose, it's 17. The express lanes are at 13. Outbound, you're slow from Diversey to the junction. And also, you're slow between Montrose and Harlem. Outbound, the Byrne Interchange to O'Hare is 32. The Eisenhower inbound, 390 to the post office, 53, 35 from Wolf. And the Eisenhower outbound between Costner and 17th, stop and go traffic, outbound to 390, 36. I-55 inbound is slow from Joliet Road to Veterans Memorial Tollway. That's traffic. I'm Julie Crownis on AM 560, The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with our AccuWeather meteorologist, Steve Williams.
Some clouds increasing, couple of showers, thunderstorm around this afternoon. The high today 82, cloudy for tonight, tomorrow. Low tonight 64, high tomorrow at 72. Plan with confidence. Download the AccuWeather app today. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
We're up to 77 at O'Hare, 77 along the lakefront. Your next news update, 8:30. Continuous news coverage and the latest on the far south side shootings of 2 ATF agents and a Chicago police officer throughout the morning. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
From the Matrix Home Solutions studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560 The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy, as information is still being culled together regarding the police shooting where 3 police officers, 2 ATF, 1 CPD, were shot this morning on the south side. This is, again, supposition based on what Superintendent Brown just said at a media briefing. It sounds like the assailant or assailants were positioned to hit those police officers. Oh. This was an undercover operation. Well, it wasn't going too well.
Yeah, they're in an unmarked car, but we all know what those unmarked cars look like. And they were essentially, to me, and maybe you too, being hunted down. And they were shot. Well, no, I mean, because there's complete lawlessness and they knew who they were. So, yeah, it was not a random shooting, as Superintendent Brown said.
But the only way you hit the car is if you're positioned waiting for them. And it sounds like they were in a sniper position above the police car as the police car was going on to 57. Is that right?
They're not telling too many details for, to...
That's what it sounds like. You hit 3 officers. That car could not have been moving. And they had the bird's eye on that car. That's what it sounds like. And if that's so, then they knew who it was, and that was a hit on those officers.
And this is the 36th time this year that a Chicago police officer has been shot at or has been shot.
And I also, I believe that we're around it, if not today, is it the 5th anniversary of those cops in Dallas that were gunned down by a sniper?
Oh, yeah. It was the first week in July. You're right.
I'm already seeing texts and traffic saying, do you think this will have an impact on Chicago? Will it have an impact on residents? Will it wake people up? What are you talking about? The systemically racist police per Mayor Lightfoot? Will it have an impact on Chicago residents' perspectives or Chicago politicians' policy choices?
Or even the president. President Biden's going to land here in a few hours.
The answer, no, it will not. I'm sad to say it, but it won't. Switching gears, let's assess the impact of somebody's words. Peter Dong, we played his speech to seniors at Illinois Math and Science Academy. Peter Dong is a pretty accomplished guy. Bachelor's in physics and music, from Harvard. PhD in physics from UCLA. He teaches physics and I think computer science at IMSA. We'll hear from him. Here's what he had to say to seniors on the occasion of their graduation just a couple of weeks ago. This is pretty stout of heart because he criticized his employer.
And so because we allowed the fear to take over, we decided as an institution, we made the decision to turn our back on the people who needed us most, the people that we could have helped right then, and we refused to. You really shouldn't apply for that. Like, even if you agree, I understand you might be showing agreement, but like, that's not something to applaud for. What we did as an institution last April was a betrayal of our students, an abdication of our mission statement, and a mockery of the name science in the name of our school.
Wow.
I mean, honestly, I watched that about 5 times.
And this parting
couldn't
thought,
get enough.
This parting thought for seniors.
And you know what? Tomorrow's graduation. Congratulations. And if you see me around, I'll just clear this up right now. You're welcome to just wave if you want, but if you want to shake hands, go ahead. I'm vaccinated. Shake my hand. And if you really want to, go ahead and give me a hug. It's fine. Okay, but no more than that. That gets weird, okay? Draw the line at hugs. And you know what? I have to admit, it's possible, even with the vaccine, there's still a risk that you might be passing a fatal virus onto me. And as long as you don't do it on purpose, I'll forgive you. Because some things are worth the risk for someone you love. See you around.
Peter Dong, science faculty at Illinois Math and Science Academy. Peter, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Oh, thanks very much for having me.
Well, let me just tell you something, and I don't say this very often, but that speech that you made to those seniors from beginning to end was just outstanding. I mean, that was outstanding. Good for you for, let's borrow a phrase, speaking truth to power, but also giving some perspective for those seniors on the last year, some perspective that's frankly lacking. We should be offering a lot of reflection and perspective on the last year. I wonder, forget the students for a second, I wonder how your fellow faculty members and the administration reacted to the criticism that you lodged against, well, the administration.
Yeah, I think actually it's not I can see certainly why you get that impression, but really it's not actually that big a deal. What happened in our school in particular was there was reopening was planned. Something went wrong involving internal politics, a union dispute, and so forth that caused it to derail and not happen. And so that's what specifically to those students I was talking about. So I would say no one particularly wanted things to go this way. Things kind of blew up out of control. So I would say, though, the next day my principal said, "Congratulations, great speech, Peter," and I thought that was very nice of her. And I have not directly heard anything negative about, which isn't to say, by the way, that everyone agreed or everyone was happy with it. I'm sure they weren't. They just haven't told me anything about it. But I think we overstate that. I would say that I'm sure there are people who disagree with me, but I'm not sure there are a lot of people in the administration who would disagree with me because they were, by and large, there was the plan was to reopen the school in April. And so, yeah, so I would say I'm sure there are people who disagree with me. No one's talked to me about it, but it was at the very end of the year, right? So I haven't had much opportunity to talk to anyone about it. So
I think more people were with you than against you for sure. So what? But when did you? Was this a plan? Was this spontaneous, or did you plan this speech?
Oh, it was not spontaneous. I worked very hard on this speech. Yeah. So I appreciate Danzy saying that that you liked it because I did spend a lot of time working on it.
Yeah, it came through. But I mean, when you use the term mockery, whether union or the administration, I mean, these decisions don't just make themselves. Somebody made them, or somebody recanted on a plan that they had that they had said they would pursue. And so, I mean, when you call it a mockery, I mean, somebody's got to be the person that's perpetrated the mockery.
I mean, I'm sure there are some people, I'm sure, who did not like what I said. I'm not sure everyone heard it. It wasn't. This wasn't actually graduation. It was a senior banquet, which is the night before.
Right.
And the reason the sound was like that because it was outdoors. So, so like most of the teachers actually weren't there. That's true. There's probably some people who are upset about it, but no one has talked to me about it. And like I said, my principal thought the speech was good. So that's my. So
good.
I would say Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, what about the students? Because you said, come by, you can wave to me, you can give me a hug. Did you get those hugs?
Yeah, I got quite a lot of hugs actually. Not a terrible number. No, I mean I would say I got plenty of people come by like, hey, can I give you a hug? Actually, right afterwards, this one student I was walking because it's all outside, right? So I was just walking down from where the microphone was, and the student runs across the field and gives me a hug, which was nice because I really did miss being with them, and it was nice to do that. And I think part of the point was that we're always so awkward and afraid of what other people think that we're not sure how far can I go with this person? So I figured if they wanted to, they could at least do that.
Well, everybody's a little bit different. See, for me, Peter, one hug is a terrible number.
Yeah, he's not a huggy.
Don't, it's a handshake.
Don't even look at me, he says.
Away from a distance, and that has nothing to do with COVID. So here's the thing. You are a man of science, PhD in physics from UCLA. Your commentary on COVID and the choices that were made, particularly, and not limited to IMSA, but particularly with K through 12 education. What is your perspective?
My perspective is that, my point here with the speech was, I wanted to, like you said, I think it was important to reflect on what happened in the last year, and I thought there wasn't enough of that, people just assuming we did the only thing we could. And I don't think that's true, that we did the only thing we could. But it's certainly true that through a lot of it, there's a lot of questions. To me, the part that really happened was that the whole year, and this speech is about, that the whole year was really characterized by fear. People were just, of course, afraid of the disease, but eventually over time, the fear became kind of habitual, became kind of ingrained in people, to the point that once you had a vaccine, which is one of the best, most effective vaccines that we've ever seen, a very, very effective vaccine, and once you've gotten that, people are still just as afraid afterwards as they were before, where there's no longer a rational basis for that fear. And the same, I feel like, applies to young people, especially the younger ones, younger than the high school age. People are all in fear of them, where in fact we have extensive data now that just show that for whatever reason, we don't really know why, I don't think, that the virus just has very, very little effect on young people. And so there is part of the point I made in the speech is that for people under 18, you had a higher chance of drowning, you had a higher chance of suicide, of overdose, of car accident, of cancer, of heart, and even of cardiac arrest killing you last year than you did of COVID. And so I think that after the vaccine happened, people should have said, okay, good, now we can get back to life. But we've gotten kind of habituated to be in fear of things. And so when the school said, okay, we're going to open things up again, a lot of people responded instinctively with fear. And these people are my friends and my colleagues, some of them. But I think you just get kind of instinctively afraid of everything, even if the rational basis for that fear is no longer there. And so that's what I wanted to talk about. Go ahead.
Well, and then so what's the plan for next year?
Oh, yeah, next year is planning to open, and there are some. I know there are some. The talks are going on into the details, but they are taking steps to make sure to involve people so you don't early on, so you don't have any kind of blow up or something like we did last year. I don't particularly anticipate anything going wrong with that after this year. I feel like people will probably be fine with moving on. So I don't think there's I don't know. I don't know how good I am predicting the future. A lot of things can change, but at the moment, it seems like everything is on track to reopen as normal in the fall.
So when you say reopen as normal, because this is sort of important. Illinois Math and Science Academy could be sort of a model to overcome fear that is informing the decisions in so many school districts. Because people say, hey, all the eggheads over at Illinois Math and Science Academy, they're doing this. So, maybe guys like Peter Dong have a pretty good perspective on this. So is it going to be kids in masks? Is it going to be plexiglass? Is it going to be astronaut suits? Is it going to be normal, like pre-pandemic normal?
That part is still under negotiation, I would say, and I should tell you, I'm just a teacher. I'm not on the negotiation teams or anything no one's asking my opinion. Yeah. I gave that speech because the students vote for teachers they want to speak at the senior banquet, and they voted for me, which is an honor, and I appreciated it.
Good choice.
but I mean, I'm not in a position of any authority or power or anything. But I mean, people are working on it. Last I heard, they were talking about various things. My hope is personally that as the rest of Illinois lightens up and no disasters happen, Lord willing, that's the case, then then we're able to start relaxing the restrictions that right now people are still talking about biweekly testing and masks and stuff like that. My hope is that will kind of relax as we see that that's not necessary. But like I said, I have no influence on that. That's my personal opinion there, but that's not, I mean, I'm not setting institutional priorities. And I suspect that, they are ongoing, kind of watching what the rest of Illinois looks like at the time.
Well, I don't know if you're doing what CPD's doing, or excuse me, CPS, and that's testing healthy kids during school. Are they going to be doing that?
Yeah. Well, Illinois, IMSA is a residential school, right? All the students live there, making it a very special case when you're dealing with a virus because the students are all kind of packed in together. So there is no exactly in school; they're always in school. But the last I heard, they were talking about doing biweekly testing on everyone. But maybe it was just once per week, actually. So I don't quote me on this. This is just there are official rules and stuff like that will come out. But that was stuff that people were discussing. Like I said, my hope is that as the rest of Illinois relaxes, as entering phase 5 and all that, and we see no spikes in case numbers, then we will be willing to relax some of these other requirements a bit as well. That would be that's my hope. Like I said, go ahead.
And so, what was the experience at IMSA over the last year in terms of faculty, administrators getting sick, kids getting sick? What happened?
So there were one or two people we knew, like on staff, who got the virus, but nothing serious, no serious cases for them. And those students that I did have some students who got the virus, and one who got it pretty bad. Actually, his whole family got pretty bad. They all recovered, but there were some cases like that. He was coughing a lot and stuff. It was noticeable, and it took a lot out of him. Mm-hmm. And there were some other students hearing from other teachers that had that similar experience. There were some students who lost older family members, which was certainly hard for them. Yeah. So I mean, it was definitely an impact that was felt not by a majority, but you definitely would notice it.
Well, I mean, I just again, the data here, the median infection fatality rate for people under 70 is 0.05% nationally. Mm-hmm. And obviously, when you get down to under the age of 18, it is just infinitesimal. And, I know you're just a teacher there, but
you're a man of science.
Yeah, and you're not the only man or woman of science at the Illinois Math and Science Academy, obviously. But no. but I mean, you went to Harvard and you still retain common sense, which is a feat in and of itself. And so I just hope that people will listen to you and will be driven by the science and the data on this, because to have kids wearing masks, to make decisions rooted in fear, it defies common sense and it defies science. I mean, look, a president who I otherwise think was an awful president of the United States said we have nothing to fear but fear itself. He didn't say we have nothing to fear but a virus. And it's remarkable to me, even people steeped in math and science are making decisions that I don't think are based on science or any legitimate basis in the data, but are based in really not even fear, politics and societal norms and what's going on in the western suburbs and what other school districts. You're the Illinois Math and Science Academy. Feel free to lead. Feel free to set, the bar. And I hope that you'll impress that upon some of your faculty to the risk of not being invited to sit in the faculty lounge anymore.
Oh, that's okay. They can't. I have a key. They can't.
Oh, good. For perfect. Yeah, perfect. But I mean, don't you? I mean, there's got to be colleagues that you hear what they're saying or hear their expressions of thought, and you're shaking your head.
Yeah, I mean, certainly. I do. I mean, of course, it's normal to disagree with colleagues. I mean, that's something that's nothing new for me or for any of us. But I do think that I think that what happened was that we started to accept someone being afraid as a reason to not as an excuse, like as a reason. So if you imagine in 2018, if someone said, like, I can't go into work because I'm afraid of, for example, catching the flu, because the flu can be fatal. And you're like, well, I mean, yes, it can technically, but it's extremely low rate, right? And that's that rate. And at the time, of course, had you not being in this mode, we would think that's an absurd claim. Why did you become a teacher if you were going to behave that way, right?
Exactly.
What happened was we began to accept that as a reason. And during the middle of the pandemic, that was actually fairly reasonable because no one knew much about this virus. And no one knew really what the riskiest behaviors were. So if someone said, I really want to be extra cautious, we were inclined to give them the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, well, that's fine. You can just do that. Well, I think the problem is that we got used to that so that now there's no now that when someone says, well, I don't want to do it because I don't feel safe, and we accept that as a reason in itself, now, even though we now have a powerful defense against the virus and the vaccines, and we have data to back up that there's in fact very, very low risk, we are still in the habit of accepting, well, because because I am afraid, therefore I ought to not do this, right? Because I don't feel safe, therefore it is not safe.
I take it a step further. Not only do we accept that as an excuse, we make policy based on whoever is the most afraid. Mm-hmm. And that's insane.
Right. I made that argument in the speech that we have a kind of a reversion to the most terrified person. And and I think what happens is that makes sense when you're talking about a social gathering. If you're going to have a meeting and you're in, say September when cases were starting to spike, then some people are like, oh, I don't think that's safe. I don't want to come in. And it's okay. It's reasonable. We can zoom in. But the problem is that we kept this mindset where we allow the people who are the most afraid to kind of dictate what happens. And maybe this is perhaps an oversimplification, but I think that's this fear became the driving force in not just in schools, but certainly in schools as well, in policy decisions. And so I think that it's now that we do have a very effective defense against the virus, and we do have data showing its efficacy, we need to move on from that mindset and say, like, look, I mean, I understand you're afraid. We're happy to work with you to alleviate the fears, but it's no longer the uncertainty that it was a year ago. Now it's really quite clear that if you are vaccinated, you are very, very safe. And if you are young, you are also very safe.
Yeah, and zero COVID deaths yesterday in the state of Illinois, just so you know.
It's wonderful.
Zero.
It is. I wish people would accept victory, or, sort of speak. Peter Dong, science faculty, Illinois Math and Science Academy. Peter, thanks so much for joining us. Continued success with your teaching career.
Thanks very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line. Coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
We'll talk to John Lott, president of Crime Prevention Research Center, about those cops shot in Chicago and about crime and guns more generally, 8:38.
But now let's head into the newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
77 degrees at 8:31. There is a heavy police presence this morning in front of Christ Hospital in Oak Lawn and in front of the 22nd District Police Station in Morgan Park, after reports of officers and agents of the ATF shot. Illinois State Police confirmed they're assisting Chicago police in that investigation after the agents and officers